Hi everyone, hope you're well today. So let's do the chanting straight away. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata gati gati para samgati buddhiso. Tayata gati para samgati buddhiso. Tayata gati para samgati buddhiso. So I hope you're feeling nice and focused and centered now after the chanting. As you know, we are having commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation. And I'm giving some overviews for these weeks. And we've already gone past the verse 3 in the overview, the first overview. And we just touched on number 4. So today I plan on completing the first overview of verse 4, 5, and 6. Then with just a little bit of a summary of these overviews as well. Okie dokie. So let's do some meditation now. Bring your mind inside your body. You should already have a reasonably relaxed body after doing the chanting and sitting and listening as well, just for a moment. So now release whatever tension you have left over in the body, starting from the tips of the toes, all the way up your legs, past your midsection and up to your shoulders, then down to your fingertips, and then back up to the top of your head. So let's just take a few moments to do this now. So now scan your body again just to see if there's any leftover tension that you can release. And now bring your mind to the tip of your nose initially. And obviously the object of the meditation is the breath. The feeling of the breath as you breathe in your nose all the way into your lungs and then back out your nose again. Just follow this feeling of the breath. Keep your mind in the present moment. Past is gone. Future is not here. Never arrives. Breathing in is quite cool as it passes your throat on the way in. Past the bronchial area into the lungs, they expand as they fill with air. As you breathe out, they compress. The air leaves the body the same way it came in. This time it's a little bit warmer as it passes your throat on the way out your nose. If thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it or grasp at it. Also, don't try to forcefully push it away or deny it even. But just let it go naturally, gently, naturally, peacefully, by refocusing onto your breath. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. You can also add the extra technique of counting the breaths up to 10. One in breath, one out breath is 1, and so on. But if you get distracted on the way to counting to 10, then go back to 1 at that time. So let's practice like this in silence for a few minutes. So now we can feel very pleased with ourselves for engaging in the practice. And we should rejoice for engaging in the practice, rejoice in our goodness, in our continued practice, dedicate the merits to others, and then rejoice in that. Let's fill ourselves with universal loving kindness, with just the feeling, or you can utilize visualization, filling yourself with white light or white nectar. So in a way, you can say we're extending or radiating this loving kindness to ourselves. It's interesting, the mind is the only known phenomena that can observe itself. So in a way, we're observing ourselves, filling ourselves with universal loving kindness. We fill ourselves with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to our loved ones, family and friends, fills them with the universal loving kindness too. Now also include those you may regard as strangers, those people that you're indifferent towards. Fill them with universal loving kindness as well. And also to those you may regard as enemies, those people that you may find difficult or irritating. Fill them with a universal loving kindness too, and have the wish that all of these people have happiness and the causes of happiness, be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and be peaceful. So now let's radiate out further distance-wise, initially around your immediate area, to all those living beings that live around here, whether they live on the land or in the waters, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, fill them with the universal loving kindness. Now let's radiate out further and further as we gather momentum, distance-wise, throughout your whole state or county. And throughout other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world, those countries that you have an affinity towards, those you're indifferent towards, those you may have some negative feelings towards. Until your loving kindness pervades throughout all of the countries and all of the oceans and all the waterways, lakes, the rivers, the creeks, the oceans, like I said, right down to the center of the earth, to the outermost atmosphere. Your loving kindness pervades everywhere throughout this planet. And now beyond this planet alone, throughout the whole solar system, throughout the whole galaxy, and the whole universe, till your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. I like to say often that we should develop a mind like this, a mind like infinite space, unattached to and unaffected by anything. Even though there's many objects in it, the actual space is not affected, not attached to. So let's be present here and now to recite the dedication prayer too. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious body, Citta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. So I thought I'd do just a little bit shorter meditations than we did last week, so that we can get more into this overview of the 8 verses of thought transformation. Just to remind you that that's exactly what we're doing here, transforming the mind. I remind you, I like to say, practice the 4 T's, to tame the mind, train the mind, transform the mind, and eventually transcend the mind. Of course, transcending the mind, what I mean by that is attain enlightenment. Okay, but we need to tame the mind, especially through concentration meditation. And then we can train the mind in wisdom and compassion and the like, and then transform the mind by training the mind. Okay, and then eventually we can go beyond all of that. So like I said when we first started today, that I'd like to complete these 3 verses in the middle, verse 4, 5, and 6, and then just give a little bit of a summary of the verses from 1 to 6 before next week, starting the overview of 7 and 8. 7, if you remember right, that it's mainly to do with the Tonglen meditation, in a sense, okay? Remember that these first 7 verses relate to compassion, or the relative bodhicitta, and the 8th verse to the ultimate bodhicitta, or wisdom, unifying wisdom and compassion together. So the 7th verse, I'm going to introduce to you this meditation, Tonglen, giving, taking meditation, next week. And then from after that, we'll actually, as I mentioned previously, that we will replace the loving kindness meditation for this time throughout the commentary on the 8 verses. We will do that instead. Okay, the Tonglen, or the giving, taking. There's a couple of techniques I want to teach you that I've learned over the years, or many, many years ago now. And I won't go into detail right now, but there's probably the easiest one is when you inhale, you take in the suffering of others. When you exhale, you give out all of your happiness. Okay, so that's the first one we'll do, but then we'll do similar to the loving kindness meditation, the second technique. Okay, so and then you can alternate these techniques, with these types of meditations, as long as you don't do it through impatience and wanting to change things all the time, getting bored or something. You can actually be quite creative during these types of meditations, just like the loving kindness meditation. And then, of course, we'll look at an overview of verse 8, and then, give a kind of summary of those 2. Hopefully next week and the week after, probably we'll finish that. And then we'll start to get into the commentary on the 8 verses. And then after that, then we will do them one at a time. And like I said, one word sometimes, one phrase sometimes at a time, to really get into the details. Okay, so this maybe I'll recite them very quickly, the 8 of them. The 8 verses of thought transformation with the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. I will constantly practice holding them dear. Whenever I'm with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. In all actions, I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. Whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I would hold such a rare one dear, as if I have found a precious treasure. When others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting the defeat and offering the victory to them. When someone I have benefited and in whom I place great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. In short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers. And in secret, I will take upon myself all their harmful actions and sufferings. Without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. Okay, so like I said, the first 3 we've done as an overview. The 4th one we started last week. Whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear. Now, I'll say this up front, that if you feel that your practice is not strong enough yet, not stable enough yet, and you're not flexible or patient enough, then maybe avoid doing this. But like I said, when we started to do this commentary, these commentaries on these verses, then I think we are ready, okay, to do this. Remember, thought transformation is what's happening. It doesn't mean you have to go and hang out with gangsters, okay? It's really important that you understand that you're transforming your mind. Normally, when we think of people like this, the people with real bad nature, and they're overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, we normally want to get away from them. And that's understandable. You know, early on, the Buddha gave the teaching, like, for instance, the Mangala Sutta. Basically, in the beginning, it says, don't hang out with fools. That's my own embellishment with the words. But don't associate with fools. Associate with the wise. And that's really important that we do that, especially in the beginning of the path. But eventually, when we start to work on developing the compassion, the bodhicitta, that we need to actually look at these living beings and first of all learn what not to do, but also learn to help them. You know, whether this help is through just thinking about them in a positive way, radiating the positive vibes to them, or whether it's speaking to them skillfully, you know, speaking about things that they can understand and then giving them some good advice on how they can improve their lives and, you know, give up their negativities and increase their good qualities. And because we all have the potential, you know, or whether it's through your actions by actually, you know, by behaving well, for instance, and speaking well, then you can be a good influence for them. But quite often, you know, I share with you, and I'm sure you know about this, but I used to visit prisons. I started doing this in California, not on a consistent level. It wasn't an every week situation, but probably visited maybe around 20 prisons altogether, 20 visits altogether over a short period of time. Okay, so that was introduced. And then when I come back to Australia after some time, I was asked to become the chaplain in a prison out in Gippsland. And so even though from the island, it was still about 2 hours, 20-minute drive, or from the suburbs where the temples I was involved with, where they are, it's about 2 hours drive. So it was still a fair drive, but there wasn't many other people living out this way that could do it. So I took on that role and I did it for about 7.5 years. So I met a lot of people in there that were suffering a lot, obviously, at very least with their freedoms taken away from them at that time, but also had gone in there because they'd committed crimes. Some of them committed, you know, pretty bad crimes, but this prison was medium security and minimum security. So actually, a lot of the crimes were very small and related really to things like drugs and stuff like that. So, but, you know, to be with these people and impart some knowledge, show them some techniques that they could improve themselves was very rewarding for me. And I could actually see some of them changing. Excuse me. And so I think that's a good example of being with people that are, you know, really have a negative energy, negative mind. So we should hold them, see them as dear, see them as very precious. It's almost like a precious treasure. When we have a treasure, we can utilize the treasure, what it's worth, and also we can utilize these living beings and how we deal with them in a good way. Excuse me again, a bit of hay fever again. So I didn't have it before class. Did you guys give it to me during the class? So I think that'll do for that one for the moment. I think it's pretty obvious, even though these verses are quite cryptic in a sense, they're actually quite obvious as well. That's the brilliance of this teaching. So whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will not turn my back on them. I will work to help them as they help me help myself as well. Help me develop more compassion, more patience, more resilience in my practice. I will hold them as a very rare one, and like a precious treasure. So then the next verse says, when others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting a defeat and offering the victory to them. So normally, as I mentioned before, we tend to, if we're in a sort of conflict with others, or if others are putting us down, making things difficult for us, or even slandering us to others, making things more difficult for us to be able to maybe achieve certain things that we want to achieve, whether it's worldly or on the Dharma path. It appears like that on the surface, but as they behave like this towards us, we ourselves can develop, once again, more resilience, more patience, more effort in our practice. So they're kind of helping us to give up this concept of winning an argument or getting back at them, giving up any sort of vengeful thoughts, giving up any sort of grudges. So we're actually benefiting from this type of behavior. Like I've said in the past, it's almost from one point of view, you could say that the people that are not nice to us actually are better for us on the path, because our loved ones tend to brush our ego a little bit, don't they? Make things very comfortable for us, which of course is very good as well. But as I said, we are transforming the mind here, thought transformation. So normally we would, like I said, fight against people that are treating us badly and slandering us and so on. But now we can just let it go. Think about how nice that is, rather than hanging on to this mental baggage of hanging on to grudges. We actually now get the opportunity to let it go and just give the victory to them. No problem. Like in martial arts, you don't stand in the way of the punch just to get hit and then punch back. What you do is you get out of the way. Get out of the way of this negative energy. And at the same time, you can help this person or these people to stop doing that by being a good influence. Okay, because slandering, this is one of the 4 wrong speeches, isn't it? I have experienced this slandering as well, and it's been actually very good for my practice. So I do, if it's still happening, I wish the people the best, and I wish that they stop doing this type of thing, because not good for their practice at all. And it'll be pushing whoever practices, whoever engages in this type of actions, this type of speech and so forth, this is pushing them away from the Dharma path. And we don't want that. We want them to be on the Dharma path. Remember the great compassion, loving kindness, wishing that beings be happy, be free from suffering. Okay, so I think that'll do for that one. Give up this concept of winning something. Just let it go. Give the victory to others. Be free. Okay, so then number 6 is when someone I have benefited and in whom I've placed great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. I'm sure that we've actually been in situations before where we have actually placed a lot of trust in someone or groups of people, and even, really worked to benefit them in a certain way, really gone out of our way. And then through their own negativities and their own mental afflictions, they either turn their back on it or even fight against it, or they don't really understand right now that what they're doing is negative, even they really want to hurt us because they're, from the previous verse, they're jealous or envious, or they're just going through a lot of suffering, and they're, really trying to take the anger out on those people that are close to them. That happens so often, in worldly ways, especially, is you tend to sort of take things out on the people that are closer to you, because sometimes you don't have anybody else to take it out on. Quite often, people that behave in this way are either hanging out most of the time in their lives with people of like manner, or they're very, very lonely in a sense. They really don't have a lot of friends and things like that. So they tend to take it out on the people that have been kind to them. And of course, remember all of these three verses that the universal law of karma, we have also created this. We've created these negative conditions by being attacked by others, things like that, because we have created these causes in the past, in past lives, maybe even in this life. And so this is also giving us the opportunity to purify the negative karma, not continue the similar karma by reacting in a negative way. So another great opportunity to point out. And so seeing this person as a supreme teacher, because think about it, they give us the opportunity to practice patience, develop this forbearance, the ability to be patient in being harmed, not get blown off the Dharma path at that time, not get upset about things. Also, the patience of having obstacles on the Dharma path, and also the patience when we don't understand the nature of reality. We can't perceive these people's minds either. We can't even perceive our own mind clearly yet. We get glimpses, of course, because that's all we have is our mind. But we can't perceive what's really causing them to do such or behave in such a bad way. And so we don't know this nature of reality yet. We don't understand the wisdom of emptiness yet. We haven't developed even the relative bodhicitta yet. Okay, so I think that'll do from the top of my head. I've written myself some notes, actually a couple of months ago now. So let me have a look at these. And this is kind of like a summary of the first 6. What have I got? 4 minutes. So I should be able to get through it without any explanation on top of it, or maybe just a little bit. Okay, so the first one. So this is basically saying that with the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. So let us visualize an infinite, I mentioned this example when I sort of introduced it to you a few weeks ago. So let's visualize an infinite number of sentient beings on one side of us, and hundreds of sentient beings, say to our left, with ourselves on the right. Okay. Who is most important? Just ourselves, or those innumerable or even hundreds of living beings? Obviously, those hundreds of living beings are more important than just one of us. Okay, so this should encourage us to hold these living beings as something that are very precious. So we are just one person, but they are myriads of people. So let us follow this democratic principle, isn't it? And let us really have concern for their well-being. Okay. The second verse basically is saying that when I'm with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all. From the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. So we are looking up to all sentient beings and thinking of them as our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, and the like, while regarding ourselves as inferior to them. We are devoting our body, our mind, our entire being to the welfare of others, now viewed as supreme to us. They are more important than us. Third verse. In all actions, I will examine my mind. In the moment a disturbing attitude arises in danger of myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. One must keep guard of one's thoughts. If one were guarding a house, like that, like guarding a fortress. This is to be done with mindfulness and discriminating awareness. These two are like the inner watchers of the mind, resembling internal police, kind of. We remember the disadvantages of mental distortions and afflictions and what effect they have upon ourselves and others, and turn away from them. Otherwise, we lose peace and contentment and reason and rationality and balance and the goodness of our mind. Of all the kleshas or mental afflictions, we find that anger and hatred are the most destructive. The fourth verse, whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear as if I have found a precious treasure. We need to cultivate an affectionate concern for such beings. Instead of thinking that such beings are extremely disgusting, we should feel as if we have found a precious jewel or a treasure or something very glorious, and accept this opportunity to help them with eagerly, So the fifth and the sixth one I'll have to pick up next week before we go into the seventh verse, an overview of the seventh verse, introduction to that meditation I mentioned, and also an overview of the eighth verse. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's class. Hopefully it's very helpful for you in your day-to-day practice lives. I rejoice in your goodness, as always. You should also rejoice in your goodness often. Recall your good deeds, Dedicate your merit to others. Study well, practice well, share well. Namo Buddhaya.